Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place. I will not pull myself together. Thank you very much.
All right, well, go to pieces and we'll start this.
Okay, let's talk about jealousy then.
You have a paper out for publication, accepted for publication, ready to go. You are deep in your jealousy work. And we don't talk about jealousy directly here very much.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few episodes about jealousy, and there's the personal side of jealousy, how I've worked with it, how it really jealousy is how I found myself doing this work at all, and is a huge part of my day-to-day coaching work. And there's, I speak on other people's podcasts about the jealousy roadmap all the time, but I don't think we've outlined it nice and clear and crisp.
Well, let's do that today.
Okay.
Let's start with the basics. What is jealousy?
What is jealousy? Okay, jealousy is the protective emotion that comes up when we feel a threat to a valued love bond. Now, there is debate about whether jealousy is a single or simple emotion, or whether jealousy is a complex emotion. I would submit that we don't actually have to know this. I mean, somebody does, and I'm glad that those people are studying it. But I'm less concerned with the strict definition of whether jealousy is complex or simple, because either way, jealousy comes with a whole mess of other emotions. So when we're thinking about jealousy, think about the fact that when you know that when you're feeling a protectiveness, you're feeling a threat to a valued relationship, that's the simple definition of jealousy.
Okay, good. There we have a nice, tight little definition of jealousy. Now, what is jealousy not?
Well, it's not its constituent emotions. Jealousy is, it brings all of this other emotional content. Your jealousy may be filled with rage and sadness and envy and shame and all sorts of things. It's not identical to any of those things. Jealousy is this beautiful experience, really, of coming to know that you value a relationship, and a horrible experience of realizing that that relationship could end or be altered fundamentally.
Okay.
It's not envy, though. That's one of the big conflations that we see with jealousy. A lot of people, and we do this in popular culture, right? We've squished jealousy and envy together in our conversations. But jealousy is distinct from envy, and it's helpful to sort them out, because jealousy is about relationship to more than one other, right? Jealousy is defined as a protective emotion where I am worried about the interruption of a valued bond by someone else. Envy is when I am experiencing the desire to be what someone else is, or to have what they have. And so with jealousy, you've got the jealousy triangle. This is how you can spot jealousy. And it can be hard to identify and notice your own jealousy. But if you have a triangle of myself, my beloved, and an interrupter, a perceived interrupter, well, now you know you've got jealousy working. And envy can be present at the exact same time, because I can also be experiencing envy of that perceived interrupter, or of my beloved, because they have this attention that I perceive them having, right? So envy can show up at the same time, but
envy doesn't necessarily, envy doesn't come with that fear of interruption. It's just like, I want that. That's a thing that I want.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so envy can be incredibly motivating. It's interesting to me that envy is named amongst the 7 deadly sins, because it can be, it's so destructive, right? When we think about it that way, it's about wanting what someone else has, and can be taken all the way to destructive levels. Think Cinderella's stepsisters. But envy can be an incredibly motivating factor. I want what you
I
have.
want that, so I'm going
So
to
I
do the
go,
things to go get it.
do I go, get a different degree? Do
Mhm.
I go start a new business? Do I go change how I live my life? What do I do in order to get that? And so
Sure.
envy can be malignant and challenging and difficult, or it can be motivating and generative and helpful. Jealousy is the same. Jealousy can be malignant. It can be diabolically damaging to my sense of relating, my sense of safety and security. It can also be an opportunity into intimacy with my partner. It can be an opportunity to turn toward a partner and re-engage with how deeply I care about them. And when I
Oh,
say partner, I really mean anyone you value. It doesn't have to be a romantic or sexual or life partner. This could be any relationship that I value. If I'm feeling a threat, if I'm feeling like this relationship could be interrupted by a third, I have an opportunity to enter into a process of working with this jealousy and re-engaging with my beloved.
so jealousy is complex. No matter like
It is
it's a
complicated.
lot. It's complicated. It's messy, and you describe it as valuable as well as it can be malignant, like you said. But it can be of value come at from the right direction. So how do we identify it so that we know that's what we're working with, since it can be made up of anger or envy or sadness? There's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
How do we know when it's that?
Well, I find people struggle to identify their jealousy frequently if they are ashamed, right? If you're ashamed that you'll have jealousy, you may be having trouble identifying it. So I want you to come back to the two tools that I've already offered, actually. The first is, are you feeling a threat to a valued love bond, a valued relationship? Am I feeling a threat to a valued relationship by a perceived other, right? Now, this perceived other might be a real person that I sense is interrupting my relationship. The perceived other can also be imagined. It can be someone you make up out of the various people that you know are in your partner's life. It can be imagined completely out of nowhere, but there is this sense of a person. So this is different, and this is where it gets a little tricky because someone's phone can sort of represent the intrusion of the
Oh,
other, right? And
sure. I see
right?
that. It's
And
a
so it can be hard to keep our sights on the fact that I can identify jealousy if I can see that triangle, if I can see myself, my beloved, and the perceived interrupter. But if the perceived interrupter, if I'm at a party with you and I see you talking to someone and I feel my threat response wake up, well, that's pretty clear. And I can probably identify like, oh, I'm feeling some jealousy. Although I might still have trouble admitting it because acknowledging that I'm feeling jealousy, well, if I have any shame around jealousy, or if I feel like that points to insecurity, or if I feel like it points to something flawed in me, it might be really hard to acknowledge. Or if I feel like my being jealous of your the attention you're getting is somehow going to actually introduce the idea that that we could be broken, that we could get a separation, that there could
oh,
be a rupture,
okay,
right? Like
yeah.
I might not want to look at that, right?
Mhm.
Like denial is one of the tools people frequently use on jealousy right away. I will just deny that jealousy exists. That can prop up our self esteem. It can prop up our sense of security and safety for just so long. And then the other thing is, so you've got the basic definition. Do you feel a threat? And is there a perceived other? So, do you feel a threat? And can you spot the triangle? Those are two of the ways that you can identify if jealousy is present. And how this shows up in my world is a lot of times people will they'll tell me a story about how their relationship's going. And then they'll say, it's not jealousy. And then they'll go on to describe the symptoms, what's happening. I'm like, well, let's look at what you just told me. You just told me that you're feeling afraid. You shared a story about how your partner's turning a lot of attention to their work, and at first you thought it was just their work, but now you're feeling like it's not just their work. They're going out with someone after work, and that makes you afraid that maybe there's a breakup on your horizon or something's changing. Yeah. I mean, at root, what we've got there is jealousy, the seeds of jealousy. And You may also have a whole bunch of other emotions, but I find people have, there's a layer of shame cloaking jealousy from a lot of us. And one of the things that has freed up a lot of energy in my relationships is just decloaking the jealousy, destigmatizing jealousy, and saying, yeah, sometimes I feel jealous. And that jealousy may be something I need to work on with a partner, because there may be actual boundaries that are being crossed, agreements that aren't being kept, or agreements that don't exist. There may be all kinds of conversations to have. Or I may have a bunch of work to do in my self worth, in my confidence, in my ability to allow my partner to really exist as a separate individual, having their own needs and wants. And it could be both of those things, right? So there's so much that could be going on in jealousy. It's no wonder people feel overwhelmed when it shows up.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I was going to ask a question. You, you're characterizing jealousy, you're characterizing all the things we can do with it, all the things that it can be good for.
I'm a
And all
jealousy
and
enthusiast.
all the ways that
It's
we
true.
hide from it ourselves. Um, it's very messy. It can be very intense. I mean,
And destructive,
it's in our art throughout time,
right?
and
Mythology,
that's the kind of
songs,
thing that
literature.
humans put into their arts. Like this has a big space in the world. So here,
Yeah, if we took jealousy out of the great literature and mythology and songs,
oh wow,
we would be missing
miss a
a
lot.
lot of art. It's true.
So
It moves us.
it moves us, and sometimes we don't want to be moved, and sometimes we don't
When
want
we
to
imagine
feel.
we don't want to be moved.
Okay,
We like to
right,
feel things. Like
okay,
humans generally do
yep.
like to feel things. Um, I'm gonna be the instigator here. Like a lot of us like to feel things that don't feel good. Jealousy can be incredibly arousing and
I
tantalizing,
mean,
even while it's incredibly destructive feeling. Like both of those things can be going on at the same time.
we all know of people, or at least of stories of people who enjoy being angry.
Sure.
Who, like, I mean, that's all over the place. So this is another
And we all know Eeyores.
emotion that I
We
want
all
to be
know some
sad,
Eeyores
want to
who
be
are like kind of,
depressed,
or
down.
and I would pull back from want to be, and I would just say we know people who they have found their they have found their spot in a particular emotional range, and that's where
Spot in emotional range. I like that.
and
Yeah.
that's where they hang out. My
Yep.
my mom was, she was bipolar. She didn't want to be depressed. However, even when she was really healthy, um, she actually enjoyed the maudlin. She enjoyed the lows, the fallows. She enjoyed
Yeah.
that
Okay.
to a
That
degree. And that when I learned to accept that about her, it was much easier to get along with her because I started realizing that we all have these different emotional not just capacities, but some attractions.
sweet spots.
Yeah. I
Because
mean, I am attracted to jealousy.
mhm.
I am. For good and for bad. And at first that attraction came out only in a desire to eradicate it. I hated it. I was so attracted to it. I hated it. I wanted to get rid of it and I tried to expunge it. And then I mean, I've now spent the last 15 years studying it intensely, and I've come to really appreciate this emotion that even the American Psychological Association says is a negative emotion. But like you said, anger.
Yeah.
What anger isn't labeled a negative emotion. It's labeled a valuable piece of information that can be used to understand what we need to change in our life. It can be leaned into for creating uh, better communication if we do it well, or it can be destructive and
Mhm.
dangerous and violent and harmful, right? Like, so labeling the emotion of jealousy as bad or the emotion of sadness as bad doesn't bring us into right relationship with that emotion. It has a lot of information for us, and it delivers that information in a way that does not typically feel like, yeah, I want to throw a party for it. And it can still be arousing or like perversely satisfying. And that's part of why this is so messy.
So you and I have had some interesting experiences because um, you're a jealousy enthusiast,
I am.
and you have, uh, and I don't really jealousy isn't really strongly present in my life. I
You
can remember when I
yeah.
was a teenager, I remember feeling like the canonical cultural jealousy feeling. The with all the country music songs, overtones and stuff like that.
Like wanting to like beat people up
Yeah. Oh,
if
well,
they
those were the words that I said. They didn't really land. In fact, I took this feeling, I mapped it onto what I heard, and I responded in that way. And I didn't really like it. It didn't really land for me. And ever since, it's been hard for me to really find it.
Mm, mhm.
Um, I don't seem to respond to the world in that particular way. I have another set of emotions that I respond to in.
So it's
So
not loud for you.
it's not loud
I
for
might
me.
describe you as somebody who has a well, in all of these years of open relating with you, I would describe you as somebody who has both a high tolerance for jealousy when it shows up and also just a, a really low reaction. You don't have
It's a
high
low response.
reactivity to
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
when it shows up. It doesn't tend to elicit. For instance, I've seen you experience anger flavored jealousy. But for you, that makes you like a little petulant and whiny. You're not keying anybody's car, you're not threatening anyone, you're not storming off to, you're
That's
just not
true.
doing that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you might get a little fussy.
So I get a little fussy.
But
So
that's very different. Other people get totally rage filled. They
right.
see red. I mean, I saw a study recently that said, I think it was 73% of domestic violence cases, somewhere in the inciting incident, there is a list of
Wow.
a feeling of jealousy.
That's a really high number,
It is an
73.
incredibly high number. So I don't want to at all discount how dangerous jealousy can be. And I also think that we have made it a scapegoat for a very long time. Up until the 80s, jealousy could be used in courts of law in the United States, not everywhere, but in, I think, Texas, Nevada, maybe Utah, as justification for grievous bodily injury and murder. Just think about what that would do to the cultural norms around what is appropriate to express jealousy, to express around it. And therefore, also, if I'm experiencing rage, but I can excuse it if I'm jealous, well, wouldn't I be likely to say I was jealous?
Yes, I killed them, but
Hear me
hear me
out.
out. I was jealous.
Right. And this, now look at all of Shakespeare. Look at all of
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to look far to know that we have an interesting relationship to scapegoating this particular emotion and to putting it on a pedestal and saying, actually, it's showing it's this it is demonstrating how much love someone feels. They
Yeah.
love you so much they will hurt you. Ah, ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha. Let's stop. So does worry me about jealousy and the way we talk about jealousy is when people use jealousy as proof of love. And that happens a lot. And it can be very, very subtle. I know I have quoted her before, but I'm going to quote again. Dr. Maya Angelou says, um, jealousy in love is like salt in food. Just enough enhances the savor and too much spoils the dish. As a culture, we do enjoy a certain amount of jealousy, right? If it is about me valuing the other, and well, isn't that what relationship is all about? And yet, jealousy just a hair too much, and jealousy can turn to violent or completely depressive, or it can lead me right into all of my attachment tendencies, so I can get super anxious and start clinging and cloying and controlling and manipulating, or I could get lean way over into my avoidance and just start dropping people the second I feel a hint of jealousy. um it, it is really complicated to work with because we react to it differently, and because our culture asks us to hold this tension, right? Like the norms around jealousy are this tension of, yeah, you don't want none, but you also don't want too much. And also, too much might kill you, but not enough means something's wrong with your love story. And ugh, like I'm tired just thinking about it. And this is my life's work. So if you're overwhelmed by your jealousy, I feel ya. It is overwhelming. This is actually why I study jealousy as an archetypal quality, an archetypal emotion. My dissertation was specifically about like what is the archetypal nature of jealousy, and for something to be considered archetypal, it needs to be both mundane and overwhelming, right? So think about
Well, that
beauty, right?
seems to 100% work for jealousy.
Yeah. So like beauty is also an archetypal experience. We see beauty everywhere. I could see beauty in the smallest blade of grass, and beauty, like it's too big to ever describe or define. It's too much. It's overwhelming. Jealousy can show up in these tiny little moments, and it also can be this immense experience of being washed over by a tidal wave.
So then what? Okay.
We should
Right.
probably do something about that.
I've got these feelings then, this overwhelming jealousy.
Right. So
Now what?
I want to, if we're going to lean into the now what, which I want to do, let's first establish that my original study was done on people who identified as consensually non-monogamous or polyamorous. And that was really helpful. And from their words, from those interviews, and from digging in, and I did qualitative research, it's interpretative phenomenological analysis. From that, I started to sort out ways that people who were working well with jealousy, which wasn't everybody who I interviewed, but the people who were really working with their jealousy well, they followed a pretty similar path. It would show up over and over again. And I was happy to see this. I was surprised. I didn't actually think that would be true. I figured that there would be just lots of ways that people had figured out how to work with jealousy, because if you're going to have non-monogamous relationships, then you are opening yourself up in part to just the idea, at least, that jealousy could be present.
So you can expect a little more
I don't think
experience with it.
I don't think most people, and you might be the only one I know who I don't did you think you were inviting jealousy when you were non-monogamous
Oh,
before me?
well, no.
Okay. So
No, because I was in the position in my particular group of being the one to be jealous because my wife had a partner and I didn't. And we talked about it at the
you're
beginning. And
open.
that's all. We
You're
were open
open.
and that was it. And so
So
I
you,
wasn't inviting jealousy. I was just doing the thing.
but you're Knuff.
I'm
You're
just
just Ken.
Ken.
Okay. So I I think that that's funny because it's it is unusual to open your relationship and not even imagine that you're going to be opening the door to jealousy. Most of the people I have spoken with, you think I see your
No,
smile.
the smile is remembering what it felt like at the time, which was, well, that's fine. I I'm not going to feel that. I'm me. I no. Why would that? Why would
Seriously, you
I?
could just break right into a full version of I'm just Ken. But
Totally could.
don't
I
do
will
that.
not.
Okay. Um I think it's funny because then it was many years of us being open, of me poking and asking questions before you were like, "Oh, I do feel jealousy. It's just that I've
It's not.
labeled it all this other stuff, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
more
not what
subtle,
I
it's
thought it would look
outrageful."
like.
And I
Yeah.
because it wasn't prosaic,
Yeah.
you were like, "No, I don't get that." But okay, but circling back,
Yeah. Anyway,
most people when they open up, they're like, "Okay, the thing I got to I'm going to have to deal with jealousy." So it was interesting to hear that there were people who were dealing with it pretty well, especially over longer periods of time. They'd figured out how to deal with it well, and they had a pretty similar path. And then I wanted to dig into this with monogamous folks too. So I have recently done a study of monogamous people and their experiences of jealousy. And the biggest surface level difference was that monogamous folks often just assumed that their monogamy was protection. Like the
mhm.
monogamy itself is supposed to protect them from having to feel jealous. And of course, we know that's not true. I mean, let's go back to those domestic violence cases. Most of those are monogamous because most relationships are at least purported to be monogamous, right? So we know that monogamy doesn't protect from jealousy. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a jealousy problem. We know that non monogamy doesn't protect from jealousy because turn your head left and right anywhere you want. And in the non monogamous community, we're going to be talking about jealousy. But what was really cool was to see how people who were in either relationship structure and or all the various ones that exist within there were still similarities. The folks who were dealing with jealousy with more ease, a little bit more grace, it was a little gentler for them. They were better resourced in all of these same ways. So the jealousy roadmap is what I've come to call this. And this roadmap is not it is not a straight line.
It's not a straight line
It's
highway
not
kind of
it's not
thing. No.
yeah, no, it's not I-90 through Massachusetts straight across. It is loop de loop. It's the Kangamangas Highway. It is loop de loop. It is switchbacks. You're going to experience moving in and out of the different steps. I'm going to lay it out for you in these 5 steps. And that matters to me because I think we need to have something to hold on to when we're going through big overwhelming emotions. And yet I don't want you to expect that you're going to move through these and be done with them. Instead, the jealousy roadmap is like a way to think about jealousy as an emotion that's going to come up from time to time in anybody's life. It could show up in any kind of relationship, could be sexual relationships, could be romantic relationships, could be your friendships, could be other valued relationships, including people like, I mean, goodness, you can feel jealous about just anybody in your life that you feel dearly about. And if you work with the jealousy roadmap, it just gives you some order of operations to move through, but think of it as we're going to cycle through them. We're going to use these different ways to navigate jealousy and not be finished with it, because we're not trying to cure jealousy. We're not trying to like make it go away or resolve it as a thing that will happen for you. Well, for one thing, because that's not how archetypal qualities, archetypal emotions, that's not what happens. We don't resolve our sadness and never feel sad again. We don't resolve anger and never feel anger again. And we know that actually wouldn't be a very human experience, right? Instead, we might want to get to a spot where we can experience the jealousy and be with it and sit with it. And maybe we don't even have to walk step by step through the roadmap at some point. Maybe we can really sit with the emotion and just feel it and then let it go. But for most of us, jealousy has far more to teach us about our relationships than we realize. And so the jealousy roadmap is also a tool for you to walk through your jealousy and get to know your partners better, get to come into better relationship with them, and to return to over and over again as you grow and learn and as stuff changes. To just keep coming back to it.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
Okay, so 5 steps. The very first step of the jealousy roadmap is to notice it. Now, we've been talking already about how it's easier for some people to notice their jealousy than others. It's also really easy to notice it in other people. So,
yeah, that's for sure. Yep.
So Ken, during the time that you didn't recognize jealousy in yourself,
Yeah.
could you just think back to the circle of friends you had at the time?
Yeah.
Could you spot jealousy in them?
Sure. Yeah.
How?
Through their behavior, through their responses to certain situations, through watching their expressions. It wasn't blatant stuff. It wasn't direct action, but a lot of it was those social cues of disapproving looks or questioning looks. And
They didn't go put on green makeup and swap themselves in a green
they
cloud,
did
though.
not dress up as
They did not become
No.
jealousy villains,
No, they
right?
But
But
it
they
was
do.
visible in their
It shows up.
it can from subtle to overt displays
Yeah.
in a group. Yeah.
And we all have those inside of us. And so noticing jealousy is absolutely the first step, because I can't work with something I can't notice.
No.
So
right.
I want you to think about noticing jealousy in yourself as like notice the sensations. Start with the sensations of jealousy. The thing is, they're unique. So,
Yeah,
like
they're
you
going to
were
be the
saying,
ones for you.
yeah, you were saying
Because
that
I
you
was looking.
notice now. What?
Yep.
How does jealousy show up for you? Where do you first feel it?
Well, you mentioned the when I my anger showing up as petulance. Like that's one of the first things. There's this petulance. And I could go into a whole thing about how I end up there, but
Because you
I've
have
learned about it.
angry flavored jealousy.
Mhm.
Because I think of jealousy as coming in flavors. It tends to have another emotion that's like riding along
I
shotgun.
have resentful flavored jealousy. I think that's actually more accurate
That
than anger,
is.
which is where the petulance comes from. Like, yeah, I don't. You're doing that thing, and so I'm gonna just pout. And so if you're watching the video, you saw my face just then, and one of the ways that I notice it is by how my face feels
Mm.
in a moment. Like I might be like, okay, I'm trying to stay emotionally present and like trying to let whatever I'm feeling wash over me, and my face is all pinched. Like, oh, okay. So there is a thing going on.
Noticing your expressions, both
Yeah.
micro and macro,
Hmm.
right? Noticing your expressions.
Tone of my voice, all these.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And personally, there is I get a burning sensation. It's in my throat. I get tingles behind my ears. I hear a lot of people. The most common physical sensation that people describe to me is knots in their stomach or dropping in their stomach.
Hmm.
That is the sensation of jealousy. That makes sense too. Just think about um the threat, right? A threat response. One of the first things that happens is we
Yeah.
feel this like our digestion sort of shuts down, like, oh, we go into a real threat response, a whole embodied threat response. Noticing jealousy, I find it takes time. And one of the easiest ways to start noticing it is to sit in a calm space and remember a time when you can now say, yes, I was jealous. I know my objective self now looks back and says, this is a time I was jealous. So if you recall, you have some very clear moments you can look
Yeah.
back on now
Hmm.
during a time when you thought you weren't experiencing jealousy.
Right.
So if you just put yourself back in those moments, maybe 25 years ago, you were right in the throes of it 20 years ago.
30, I think at this point. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I can put myself in one of those moments.
So if you tune into your body, well, in that moment, what do you feel?
I feel a shutting down, a closing up, um, a um, like a hardening of my outside.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, those
awesome.
feelings.
So once you know them, I recommend you write them down. And you can, if you go to thejealousyroadmap.com or if you go to my website, go to joliehamilton.com, we'll pop it into the show notes. There's a workbook to work through these things. What are the sensations that you experience with your jealousy? Because if you can identify them and then put them on a sticky note
Yeah,
and say, like, those are the jealousy sensations for me. Those are my alerts, right? Those are the warning bells.
and this is worth spending a lot of time on because I mean, it was for me because I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not feeling jealousy. I'm feeling all these other things. Um, but those are the things for me. Those are the sensations of jealousy for me.
Right.
But it took a while to figure it out. It's
And
worth the
this
time.
it's totally worth the time because we haven't even gotten to what this will do for and within your relationship.
Right.
Right now, we're just talking about you in your body. First off, if you can notice sensations like hardening, closing up, your stomach's knots, all these things, then you have the opportunity then to also remedy that, to work with that by doing nervous system regulation, by seeking out some help, by not trying to numb out, but to try to work
Yeah.
with that sensation. So there's also some medicine right there in the moment. But noticing is the first step. And then the very next step is to name it. You can just name it. You can own the fact that this is jealousy and then name it a little bit more specifically. What flavor is this jealousy? So, first off, if I can acknowledge that I'm experiencing jealousy, maybe I'm feeling the sensations and I look at my current situation and I get real with myself and I'm like, yep, I know what this is. Ken's going on a date. I am feeling uncomfortable. I know I have everything I need to just gather the data of, yep, I feel uncomfortable. And that's jealousy. And if I can name that and be present to it, not shame myself for it, And then I can seek the other emotions. What else is up? Oh, I'm feeling sadness or grief. I'm feeling anxious or fear. I'm feeling anger or rage. Like these are different levels of these feelings. Look at a feelings wheel. What are you feeling? Despair comes up for people. I'm feeling ashamed. I'm feeling unworthy. What are you feeling?
And I want to say that if you're inclined to like gloss over this step, naming it is so important to pushing back against the cultural shame of jealousy.
Right.
Um, Not naming it, speaking for myself, not naming it just strengthened the feelings of shame that I got from it.
It's
Naming
also
it, it's like, yeah, no, that's okay. It's okay that I'm feeling jealous. And now I'm saying it in a minute.
it's also a good way to push back against the self-righteousness that can come up with jealousy.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah.
if you are in a non-monogamous circle of friends and community who have demonized the very presence of jealousy, right? Not all have, many of them have embraced it. But if your circle happens to be very like anti-jealousy, jealousy is not involved, you shouldn't feel that. You should figure out how to turn that into compersion. If you were good you must not be good at this. You're not doing this very well. You're not doing your work.
Yeah.
Right. If you're getting that,
Yeah.
so that's one kind of shame you might feel. But there's also this self righteousness that comes along. And I find this happens more in situations where people are just absolutely certain that the jealousy that's being inspired is their partner's problem.
Ooh, yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
that is you. You're doing this to me.
Yeah.
And the problem there is, first off, it's incredibly disempowering. It's so disempowering because now how I feel, my emotional response, I am tying that to what somebody else is doing and saying, great, I guess, well, I'll just lay myself out on this altar. Would you stab me? That would be great. So it's really
Yeah.
disempowering.
Yeah.
It is also fueling the idea that I can't do anything about it. But that's not true. We're going to get to steps that talk about what to do about the actual relational things that could be happening, the actual, like we said, missed agreements, problems in the relationship. But for right now, the jealousy itself is your emotion. It's yours. It's happening in you. You are empowered to work with it. And as long as you are convinced that the resolution for your jealousy is your partner's responsibility, well, you might be waiting your whole life
Yeah.
for that. So I want you to own it, and owning it starts with noticing it, naming it. You can get into the naming and really tease it apart. In the jealousy roadmap guide, there is a whole little worksheet to like, okay, what are the feelings that I am? What's it bringing up? What are the sensations? What are the other feelings it's bringing along? And there are also other prompts throughout the workbook to just help you dig into like, where does jealousy live for me? Like where are its roots? What's it bringing up and what's it attached to from my past? I'm a depth psychologist. I can't help that. Always going to go there too. Um, but once we've noticed and named, so those are the first two steps, and those are ones that typically people will take on and sort of they'll bite them off all at once. Like, okay, I can do that in one sitting. Then we get to the trickier stuff. It is also the really juicy stuff. This is where I think most people imagine we will start with jealousy. Um, Most people imagine that I'm going to start by saying, okay, we need to go to your partner. So instead, I'm going to have you start with noticing, naming, being with your jealousy, claiming your experience of it. And then I want you to get into navigating your needs. Navigating your needs is so this was so clear throughout both the non-monogamous and monogamous study samples. It was very, very clear that people who were able to navigate getting their needs met and navigate their needs for clear agreements and reciprocity in their relationships and integrity and accountability in their relationships, people who could do that, no matter what their relationship structure was, they were having an easier time working with the jealousy that did show up. I think that makes perfect logical sense to everybody I've ever said it to. And it's not always easy. It can be really, really hard because this is the stuff you can spend years just trying to work through. How do I navigate my needs? Well, first I gotta know what my needs
Gotta
are.
identify them.
I gotta be able to identify my needs, sort them out from my wants. Understand that some of my needs may not be fillable in my current life, and that's really upsetting because they're needs, and needs are things that you subjectively feel are required for you to have a satisfying, meaningful experience of life. So you might be in a spot where some of your needs can't be met right now, and that is like, ouch. Like, my heart is with you, and being able to identify your needs and your wants. And your wants, in my book, wants are they're the specific ways you want, you desire, you would like your needs to be met, right? So they may be a little bit more varied. And importantly, if you're going to move into step 3 here, where we're navigating our needs, yeah, first I need to identify, then I need to be able to talk to you about them. I need to be
Right.
able to
Yeah.
communicate those needs. So sometimes I have a sort of intuitive sense of what my needs are, what my relationship needs are, what my agreement, what my boundary needs are, like how I'm going to hold my boundaries and how I would like to make agreements with you to actually make sense of.
Yeah. I really like the word navigate here because it's not just figuring out what they are, it's figuring out what they are, whether their needs or wants, figuring, like,
And then
okay, yep, I figured out their needs. And now how do they sit in the
in
relationship
this
that I'm
particular
in this
container.
particular container? There's a lot to do there,
Right. And you may have multiple relationships
right?
that may meet different needs in different ways. You may have multiple relationships where you have different kinds of agreements, different ways of making agreements. A lot of people don't have clear relationship agreements. I've had thousands of conversations with people about agreements, and only a tiny handful of people have ever come to me with agreements that actually hold their relational experience well enough for them to feel relaxed and calm. And that's not just the sampling bias of like me working in a helping space, because I've been talking about this with people in and out of that space for 15 years, gathering this anecdotal level data. And yeah, we weren't taught to make relationship agreements that are clear and negotiated. We weren't taught the skills of it. So it's perfectly reasonable that we haven't made the agreements, because where are we going to learn to? Like, who was going to teach us? And then how are we going to get buy-in from our partners
Yeah.
to make them and then to live them? 'Cause sometimes people make agreements. They're like, yeah, we have agreements, but they don't revisit them. They couldn't actually discuss them clearly with me. They don't know. And then they don't have consequences. They don't know. And I don't mean punishments. I'm very, very clear here. Do not mean punishments. But if I don't know what the consequences are of violating agreements, I don't really have agreements so much as I have heartbreak waiting to happen. And
Sure. Yeah.
so navigating your needs is an incredibly um, complex, rich process. This is the part where I say, yeah, that's the stuff you work through with your counselor, therapist, coach. That's the stuff you get into. Okay, we don't have the relationship skills that we need because we don't have a way to navigate our needs. It's not happening. Okay, step 3 is where we want to seek help. This is where it's normal if you don't know how to do this. Let's figure it out. And this is why in the year of opening, we don't try to make agreements at the very start. It's not make agreements and then run out and go do stuff. It's let's actually thoughtfully navigate through some experimental conditions and figure out what will work. It takes patience. And that is unfortunate because jealousy does not really inspire a ton of
It
patience.
feels like an urgency.
Yeah, sure does.
It feels like the
An
threat feels
emergency.
imminent, like an emergency. Like there's a thing that's wrong right now, and everything's going to go to hell if something doesn't change right now.
Yeah. And so it is important to be able to manage your reactivity and
Mhm.
to manage your defensiveness, to manage your ability to just stay present to the fact that if this is a relationship that you want to be in, jealousy doesn't have to equal the end, but it also can't just equal numbing out, ignoring it, or fighting the whole time, because
Yeah.
the fighting won't actually get you what you want. It's going to take actual skill building and digging into the shadows, digging into your past. Most of us drag a whole bunch of jealousy related material into every new relationship we make.
And my experience is that having an agreement helps make space in that moment when it feels like there's an emergency. The knowledge that there's an agreement that we've worked on, that I understand what I committed to, what you committed to, what the consequences are. We've already talked through this. I mean, it's an emergency response plan, among other things.
Yeah.
And that's really, really helpful. Takes the pressure off of, oh my God, this is an emergency I have to solve right now. No, actually, we already have a whole bunch of solution in place.
Right.
It's
We'll,
very relaxing.
it is. And don't feel bad if you don't currently have them.
No, it's good to have.
It's really good to have. And this is also why some people come into the year of opening, and what they're really doing is opening to themselves. Yes, we're talking about opening up relationships, but that can happen in many ways. We're also building these foundational
Yeah.
skills.
Mhm.
Many people are like, I'm pretty sure I want a version of creative monogamy. It's going to have more monogamous aspects. Yeah, that's fine, because the skills are the same. The skill building is really, really
Yeah.
solid and the same. Okay, so we've got notice, name, navigate needs. And now we get into the depth psychological piece, right? So
Love this part.
the fourth step is for you to get into what's the narration? What's the narration of this experience? Jealousy. What does jealousy mean to you? What's the story you tell yourself about what jealousy means about relationships? What does jealousy mean in this relationship? What does jealousy mean about you? Because so frequently I have people tell me things like, "Oh, jealousy is just insecurity." I just translate that word like jealousy is just insecurity.
Mhm.
So, and then they blow past it. I'm like, "Oh, that's actually a story." What you're saying is your experience of jealousy, that it's also a very it's a lovely confession. When somebody tells you what they think about jealousy, they're also self-confessing. For them, jealousy is about insecurity. Cool, great. That's important information. I'm glad you have that information. That doesn't mean it is the sum total of what jealousy is about for your partner or for your partners.
Right, right. That's just for you.
That's
Yeah.
for you. And so, like, I have heard so many deep stories about jealousy. Jealousy that starts when people are very tiny. Because remember, we can identify jealousy in infants as young as 6 months old, right? They did studies, these really, really ingenious studies, I think, of, you take a caregiver, a parent-child bond. These happen to be mothers. The study's a little bit older, so that was also it was more expected that it would be a mother-infant bond. But have the mother turn their attention from their bonded infant, have the mother turn their attention to a book. Read the baby's facial expressions, notice their reactivity, what happens. Now have the mother turn her attention to a lifelike baby doll. Read the baby's expressions, read what happens to the baby, what's the reactivity. Um, what we spot is something that looks an awful lot like a threat, a perceived threat to a valued love bond. And in this case, this is a valued survival love bond, right? And I say this because your jealousy narrative goes all the way back. Like there is a cultural narrative that says jealousy is about just romantic love.
Yeah.
It's about evolutionary psychology likes to make it all about sperm competition and mate dominance and mate selection.
Which
But
gets really complicated in queer relationships, but okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I'm not even going to go there. That's actually we'll take up my
Another
my
time, another episode.
irritations with the limitations of the evolutionary psychology. There are limitations to what those studies can tell us. We'll get into that in another time. But the narrative that you have about jealousy can go back incredibly deep. It can go back to pre-verbal experiences. What that means is you may be bringing all of this material that you don't even recognize into your current love relationships, right? So if you think about this, you think about, okay, I'm an infant and I need this person for survival. And so I need to react. I need to cry. I need to not have somebody else have my mom's attention. Okay. And then you grow up, you're a toddler, and the toddler, all of a sudden there is another baby around, or there are other people in their household, and that is what the interruption is. And they are told, Be good.
Be
Be
good.
nice.
Yeah.
Don't be jealous. There's this sense that jealousy is bad and is installed right there when we're somewhere between 18 months and 4 years old, generally. Jealousy itself is like, here, get rid of that, cut it off, get rid of it. And I've yet to ever have a conversation with anyone who remembers a parent telling them, hey, so you're feeling jealous right now. That feeling of not wanting me to turn my attention away, that's jealousy. Now, here's what we do with jealousy. I think it's quite possible that right now people are probably parenting that way, but I didn't know to when I was parenting 20 years ago. I didn't know to do that. So I think we're getting a lot more emotional intelligence right at the get go. And let's add jealousy to that pile. So if you're teaching good skills around anger and sadness to your kids, add jealousy to this, because if we could teach them, then they won't experience what I think most of us did experience, which is, okay, we've got all this jealousy that shows up when we're an infant. It gets reviled and pushed away, pro-socialized out of our behavior as toddlers. So then it goes subterranean and it percolates throughout elementary school and into junior high and high school. And then boom, reasserts itself when we start creating best friendships and romantic
Yep.
partnerships. And all of a sudden, not only does it reappear at a time that we're incredibly hormonally challenged, but also at a time when we generally are starting to separate from the people who might guide us through these moments. So we may not know what to do. They also don't know what to do about jealousy. Um, See all the previous stuff we've talked about, how hard jealousy is, and adults are not managing it terribly well. And on top of that, every rom-com, every story we listen to, every song is telling us that jealousy is proof of love. So now my prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. I'm awash in hormones. My nervous system is on fire because I'm experiencing a threat to this valued love bond I have. Yeah, I might be 14, and yes, it is still very valued. And so what happens? I form a jealousy pattern. I form my jealousy story, what jealousy means about my relationships, what it means about me, how it works, how I respond to it, what
What
I
other
do.
people's responsibility is for it, all of
Yeah.
those things.
We form that.
Mhm.
And then typically what I'm finding is it kind of solidifies. And people can frequently see how they've responded to jealousy in pretty much the same way the whole time. And you were a really good case study for me in that way, because you had the same sort of low subterranean, I'll
Yeah.
transcend
Yep.
this,
Yeah, I will transcend.
right? That
I
was
am
your
above
move.
this all.
That was your move when you were a teenager,
Yep.
and that was your move when we got together when you were in your mid 40s. It's still your move unless you consciously shift in. Like I see you like start to sort of lift yourself out, like I'll just, and then you drop in. You're like, I'm gonna be with this
It's a
feeling.
particularly interesting manifestation of avoidance.
I mean, it's been effective for you up to the point that it actually stops you from helping me understand you better.
Right. It was effective for a set of goals that are no longer the goals that I have.
Yeah. And so this is where I think most people miss the opportunity that jealousy really is. It's an opportunity to navigate your needs with your partner, step 3, which brings you into deeper intimacy and more secure relationships. And step 4, it is an opportunity to deep dive into yourself, into your individuation journey. It is an opportunity to untangle the narrative that you currently have and the one that you've been building literally since you were in utero, and to start telling a story that is also conscious. You'll still have unconscious material, and you can add conscious reflection to that. And you can amplify the imagery of jealousy and you can get to know it. And we can, like, really, it is incredibly powerful material. When I work with my private clients on this, I'm just so thrilled to get the opportunity to be right there with them in the throes of their jealousy work, because it is so potent.
It's such a window. It's such a window into the human experience.
Right.
It's amazing.
And so your individuation journey, which is unique, it is yours. It can be aided by deep diving into step 4, into unpacking the narrative of jealousy for you. And then, of course, we have step 5. And step 5, I want to just say off the bat, it's optional. It's optional. You do not have to participate in step 5. But for my non-monogamous participants, who all knew the word compersion, they knew the word compersion, which means to have joy for my partner's joy, even if that joy has nothing to do with me, right? A wholehearted joy for their joy. Um, all of them were working on nurturing compersion. Some of them more successfully than others, to their own by measured as measured by their own. How is my compersion going? Um, my monogamous sample, only a couple of them knew the word compersion. No one used it in the study to describe how they worked with their jealousy at all. The two people who knew it were therapists who had trained some in marriage and family therapy and were familiar with the word, but they hadn't really attached it to anything for themselves. But step 5 is about nurturing compersion. And this is where I am going to gently guide you along the jealousy roadmap, right? So you're going to step through 1 through 4, and then nurturing compersion. I'm going to ask you to lean into Dr. Marie Tuin's work because her work picks up right here. Marie's work is one of my dearest friends and also just an amazing researcher who is looking at what exactly are the qualities of compersion, what creates a circumstance in which compersion can be increased, can be accessed more easily, can be facilitated, and what exactly could we do? What are the action steps that we can do to take in our life? Like how would we make compersion easier to flow? And Marie and I got together a while ago to talk about jealousy and compersion. And I loved, and you've heard her on this podcast probably. I love the fact that our work nests together because many people try to transmute jealousy into compersion.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that gone for you?
They're not made out of the same things.
Yeah.
You can't rearrange the pieces of jealousy and end up with compersion.
Right. So jealousy it's a fear, it's a threat. Its base materials are not joy.
Yeah.
Compersion comes from a place of joy, generosity, a sense of being in harmony, right? These are just two different things. And what's really, really important here is you can feel jealous and compersive at the same time. I can be really, and for the same person in the same situation, I can be, because we contain multitudes. Old Walt
That's
got
for
it
sure.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I contain multitudes. So you can be experiencing jealousy, the fear that your love bond's about to be ruptured, or jealousy that it comes from like, oh, my partner's going out on a date, or I feel insecure, or I'm feeling nervous about whether the agreements we made will be upheld, or I'm feeling nervous that maybe our agreements didn't cover all the things. I could be feeling all kinds of different ways that my jealousy is coming into to be. I'm cognizant of them. I know that they're here. And at the same time, I may be experiencing an attitude of jealousy um, and an attitude of compersion. Like, yep, I got total disdain and frustration and anger and sadness and stuff going on. That's the jealous side. And at the same time, oh, actually, I'm really happy for you that you're going on this date. I'm really happy for me that you're going on this date. And that makes it easier to feel happy for you going on this date. I'm happy for me because I get to have time to do this other thing I want to do. And that actually creates more circumstance for me to feel happy for you because you're going on this date. Compersion is not simple and it's also not required, but I think the very first thing we can do to nurture compersion is to not imagine that we have to eradicate our jealousy in order to have access to compersion. And just allow them to sit there next to each other, being messy next to each other.
So I can see why you put this fifth, because what you just described sounds like all of the other 4 steps: notice, name, narrate, or navigate needs. They all feed into nurturing compersion. If you notice that you're feeling jealous, then you can identify it and say, okay, I'm feeling that. And what else am I feeling?
Yeah.
And you name it specifically. Oh, it's this. What other kinds of things might I be feeling? And you know to look for it.
Yeah.
And looking, you mentioned looking at well, so you're going out on a date, which means I get some time to do something. There's navigating your needs. Oh,
Right.
actually, this is in line with something that I want.
Right.
And so now you can feel positive about yourself, which helps you feel positive about them. And then there's the story.
The story. And the story can help you access compersion. If you can get into your narrative, what is your jealousy narrative? Well, there may be a bunch of your own judgments about what jealousy blocks you from. And one of
Mhm.
the things it might block you from is feeling genuinely great for your partner, happy for them.
Right.
And I don't know a lot of people who want to feel blocked from more joy in their life.
Yeah.
So just being willing to unpack this, yeah, walking through the jealousy roadmap, and again, a swirly twirly path, dancing your way through,
Yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah.
or stumbling, whatever you got to do,
It all loops
toward
around.
nurturing compersion, and then releasing yourself from the idea that you have to get rid of the jealousy, let them coexist. And then I love that Marie talks about, and I had mentioned it in my dissertation. It was so interesting when we started talking about this. We had this deep recognition of how both of us had found in our samples that there were people who had an attitude of compersion, like they believed in the happiness, they believed in the joy, they wanted to feel that way, they felt positively about it. They thought about it positively. And then there was just the actual embodied, luscious, yeah, I feel joy for your joy. I feel
Okay. Yeah.
pleasure for your happiness. And for me, this this also attaches to what I understand to be the original use of the word compersion. Compersion was first coined by the Caresta community, I think in the Bay Area of California in the 90s. And they used it to describe almost a kink. And this, now we're tapping back into my work, the arousal, the I get off on my own jealousy. And therefore, you going out on a date, if I can recognize that I can be in my jealousy and sink down into it in a way that's like, okay, okay, I feel this threat. What if I get off on it? What if I enjoy the jealousy itself? Now, that's not what I've heard Marie talk about. Marie's talking about the embodied
Mm.
wash of joy. But in my research, I found 30% of my non monogamous participants and I myself, we experience erotic pleasure attached to jealousy. Now, also just go to Pornhub.
Yeah. Right.
Go to any porn website and look and see how many stories have to do with jealousy. A lot of us find jealousy erotic. And so we can potentially nurture a kind of compersion that sits right alongside jealousy if we allow them to coexist and commingle, and we allow ourselves to take an existential kink perspective where I say, yeah, that is nasty. And yeah, I like it.
So yeah, that is
It's very
I
effective
love
for some
that.
of
And
us.
I yep.
If it's not for you, it's not for you. But if it's for you, let me just say, you might be having a good time.
So you've got this threat feeling that is in
Mhm.
jealousy, and you're like, yeah, I kind of like that. That sounds like bungee jumping,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
emotional bungee jumping. Like, oh no,
Emotional
I
bungee jumping.
love the feeling of the falling and the fear and the threat of the ground coming up to me.
Yep.
And then that whole experience is amazing. Wow,
Jealousy is a
I've never
plummeting sport.
jealousy is a plummeting sport.
It's
That's really cool.
jealous, and here's the thing, a lot of times when people hear me say that jealousy can be arousing, the there's some people, and you may be a person like this, right? You might feel an instant pushback, like, no, it's not. So I'm just going to ask you to soften into the idea that even if that's not true for you, it is true for many people. And it also takes an amount of tolerance, tolerating the discomfort, because I have to be with the fact that this icky thing also gets me off. So that's why I mentioned existential kink. So that comes from Carolyn Elliott, now Carolyn Lovewell, just changed her name. Her work, the book Existential Kink. I'm a certified existential kink coach now.
Sure.
And what I like about that work, though Carolyn's work is also, highly problematic in other ways, but I'm used to reading old white men. I know about sorting
Huh.
out
Yeah.
problematic stuff, whatever. the core of existential kink is this idea that we can literally allow ourselves to descend into the icky grossness and recognize that, that our divinity embodied here in this grimy existence of humanity, and for some reason gets off on nasty things, on gross things, on difficult things, on horrible things. Now, this resonates deeply for some people, and for other people, they're like, hell no, get me away. But if it resonates for you, you may have just found a way to start working through your shadow that will be more effective than any of the other ways you've tried. So if that sounds intriguing to you, well, you'd love the year of opening, for one thing.
Yeah.
If any of this, though, has caught your attention, please remember that it might be different for your partner. So Ken is a what I think of as a low jealousy reactive and high jealousy tolerance. So he could write off jealousy and just be kind of like, this isn't my problem. I don't have a problem with this. But you do have relationships.
Yeah, so that was a question that I had at the beginning is so what does it matter to me? But then as you were talking, like, well, it's kind of obvious how it matters to me because I'm connected to you. I'm connected to kids, dogs. We have a very jealous poodle.
We have a really jealous poodle.
Jealousy impacts me, but more importantly, it impacts important people in my life. So understanding more about it helps me understand more about you and helps me increase my intimacy with you, which is a goal.
Right. And it can help you refrain from doing the most damaging thing. Well, right after the domestic violence, first stop doing that.
No, don't do that.
Including the emotionally abusive stuff. Stop that. But then there's one that most people don't realize is abusive, but it is awful, which is minimizing or demonizing jealousy or telling someone that they are bad just for having jealousy. People may act badly when they are experiencing jealousy, and we need to get that straight because the feeling, if we can work with the emotional experience, great. If we ask people to shove it down, it will go into the unconscious and it will pop back up like a damn beach ball where you least expect it. And that is the thing that I find happens with people who are sure that they have evolved past jealousy, is that they often make other people feel unsafe about bringing their jealousy to the surface. And so I want to invite us all into a conversation where we normalize that jealousy happens. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, don't worry, you're not dead yet. Might get you tomorrow. Who knows? And you also have the opportunity to be a force for normalizing jealousy in your larger communities, right? So this is about your intimacy with self, your intimacy with your close partners, and your part of the human and more than human world, and just being with these uncomfortable emotions that have lots and lots and lots of wisdom. Jealousy has a wisdom of its own, and I am so present to the fact that when people start working with it, life-changing moves happen, life-changing opportunities open up. So that's the jealousy roadmap. You are about to make sure that they can find the jealousy roadmap very easily at thejealousyroadmap.com.
Yep.
Or is it jealousyroadmap.com?
It's jealousyroadmap.com.
There, you got it right. Jealousyroadmap.com. And it will also be in the show notes. I would encourage you to dive deep into this and take it on as shadow work. That's what it is. When we talk about shadow work, a lot of times people imagine that it is less specific than this. Shadow work can be specific. Jealousy, diving into your jealousy, boom, there's some shadow work. I would also invite you to dive into the Jealousy Masterclass. So if you go to jealousymasterclass.com, there is an even deeper dive. You want to take jealousy to the next level? That is a 3-hour tour through the history, the research, the amazing wonders that are jealousy. I love it so much. You can find that in the show notes as well and on my website. And I'm really excited to say too that jealousy work is woven throughout all of the year of opening. So if you have been open for a while and jealousy keeps coming up, the year of opening might be for you, because what might be missing is that you might not have the tools you need to handle step 3. To handle step 3, where you navigate your needs and you do that effectively, Great. The year of opening is made for you then. That is exactly what it's for. A lot of times people imagine that the year of opening is only for people who are right at the beginning of their journey, and that is a
No,
place. Some
it's
people come in that way, but that is absolutely not true. Many people are years in, but realizing, "Oh, I need to up my game. I need to
yeah,
up my skills and get access
the
to
conversations,
tested
the skill
tools."
building, the tools,
And
it's
community where we're
for
normalizing
anybody. Yeah.
all of this.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I invite you into the contemplation. Do you want to join us in the year of opening? If you're up for that, then get on the wait list. You'll find that at theyearofopening.com. So lots of links will be in the show notes.
Okay.
And I want to hear what you're thinking about jealousy. You can always, always reach out to me. You can comment here on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. You can comment. You can also reply to my email, which, I'm always around on email as well. So reach out to admin@jolihamilton.com and you can make sure I'll see your jealousy notes.
Love to see him.
There's no one right way to design your relationship. And lots of people, actually about 25%, according to a recent national survey, are interested in some type of open relationship. But how do you know if you are ready to open up happily? Not everyone is, and that's no problem. I've got a 60-second quiz that will give you the answer. And even better, you'll walk away with your next step, whether you're good to go or not so much when it comes to opening up. And this is no BuzzFeed nonsense. I personally designed this quiz from my years of academic research. Go to joliquiz.com. That's JOLIQUIZ.com and find out if you're ready to open up happily and what to do if you are or if you're not.